welcome and thank you for coming along to watch this information session about Liberate. The course is designed to help people to take control of their processed food addiction. The aim of this session is to give you enough information for you to be able to decide whether you'd like to consider participating in the Liberate course. In this information session, I'd like to tell you about the Public Health Collaboration, which is the UK charity that's been involved in the creation of the course. Then I'll be telling you about the Liberate course itself, the structure of it, how we deliver it, and a little bit about the content. We'll also talk about carbohydrate restriction and the benefits of this. Then I'd like to share some success stories with you, those that have turned their lives and health around. We also have the results of the pilot of Liberate and positive feedback about how the course has turned people's lives around. There are some important considerations around medications prior to starting the course, and I'll finish by going through the enrolment process, the next steps, what to expect, and also a link to submit any questions you may have. The Public Health Collaboration is a UK charity whose mission is to empower, inspire and educate people that most chronic diseases can be prevented and reversed by maintaining good metabolic health through sustainable lifestyle changes. One of the charity's ambitions is to have food addiction recognised as an official diagnosis. Members of the Scientific Advisory Board include Dr. David Unwin, a GP based in the northwest of England, who has been offering a low carbohydrate real food approach to his pre-diabetic and diabetic patients for about 13 years now. He says that not one person has chosen medication over the lifestyle approach. And alongside his wife, Dr. Jen Unwin, who is a clinical psychologist, he's been running regular meetings for his patients. To date, they have 141 patients in remission, one who has recently celebrated about 11 years of drug-free remission, and their practice saves about £68,000 a year on diabetic medication. We also have Dr. Trudy Deacon. She is a dietitian who set up a company called Expert Health about 20 years ago, and via education through expert courses has successfully helped people to improve their metabolic health. The map on the right hand side indicates the whereabouts of about 100 ambassadors across the UK who advocate for the real food approach and who are actively involved on a regular basis with the charity. In addition, we have associates who are enthusiasts who give their time to help to promote the Public Health Collaboration, such as with online activities and with running tables at events. These ambassadors and associates consist of healthcare practitioners as well as regular people that have improved their own health and who are passionate about sharing that with other people. I'd like to introduce you to the Liberate team. Ellen Calto. Ellen is the creator of the Liberate course. She is a registered dietitian and she is the Liberate operations manager. Erin Bellamy. Erin is a metabolic health practitioner and she is Liberate's team lead. Dr. Jen Unwin, clinical psychologist. Dr. Unwin is the author of the book Fork in the Road, A Hopeful Guide to Food Freedom, which is an excellent resource about food addiction. If you'd like to learn more about our team's personal stories, then please click on the separate link. What is Liberate? Liberate is a lifestyle programme for adults with food addiction that provides education and group support. We hope to provide you with the confidence to find what psychological tools work for you. It's not a one-size-fits-all, it's client-centred and we help you to find out what works for you as an individual. And we do emphasise that recovery from food addiction really is a realistic target. The programme is 8 consecutive weekly sessions hosted by a health coach via Microsoft Teams and lasting for approximately 90 minutes. The pilot of the course initially ran over 6 weeks, but following feedback from the participants, we've now increased this to 8 weekly sessions. The sessions focus on the biopsychosocial model of health. You'll learn how certain foods affect us biologically and psychologically. We'll show you how social tools such as support groups and psychological tools such as journaling and mindfulness can help us in our recovery and to maintain that recovery. We'll also provide lots of links, hints and tips for ongoing support. It's important to mention that this is not prescriptive. We're not telling you what to do, but we provide you with information and skills to empower you to make informed decisions going forward. There are 12 to 15 participants per class. We find that this works really well. It creates intimacy, but it's also a good number of participants to get a conversation going, to hear everyone's stories, how they're getting on, and ideas about how they deal with any challenges they may be having. Once you have enrolled on the course, we'll send you our comprehensive Liberate book. This will provide references and support for each session, but also is a workbook for you to record goals and to track health and wellbeing changes. We have a dedicated WhatsApp community that you'll be invited to join and which is optional. This is where you can discuss different topics with everyone who has been through the Liberate programme. These include gratitudes and motivational posts. We have a general discussion page, a page where you can discuss food and recipes, as well as a page to post Liberate specific questions. In addition, we have an outreach support page for if you're struggling and where you can post to see if anyone is free to have a brief chat. We provide ongoing support for a year. This includes a weekly support meeting on a Tuesday evening, and each week will vary. We'll have 2 or 3 weeks where it's a general catch-up, where the participants will be invited to spend about 3 minutes sharing the successes and challenges that they've encountered over the past week. And we'll also have a couple of sessions per month where we will provide additional education or we'll invite guests to speak on topics that we think are relevant to Liberate. Back to the low carbohydrate and ultra processed food free way of eating. There are 3 key principles. The main message is that you want to reduce the amount of sugar and starch that you're eating. Obviously, there's a lot of glucose in sugar, but people often don't realise that starch is glucose molecules stuck together. And as soon as you eat something starchy, such as potatoes or rice or pasta, your body will digest that down into glucose molecules. So being aware of that and reducing the amount of sugar and starch is where we start. The second thing is to try to eat real food. This is nutrient-dense, minimally processed food. The sorts of things in the picture. We have meat and fish. There's nuts, eggs, dairy, and lots of vegetables. The last principle is to only eat 3 meals a day and try to avoid snacking. When you start eating this way, you'll just feel less hungry and find it easy to stop snacking and are likely to feel like eating less often during the day. If you adopt the first 2 principles, then this will just naturally happen. The benefits of restricting ultra-processed foods. You may see an improvement in blood pressure because when blood glucose levels are high, then usually you have very high insulin levels, which can cause water retention. So as you reduce your glucose and your insulin comes down, you'll notice that you lose water and your blood pressure will gradually start to fall. And in fact, this is sometimes one of the first things that people notice. Going back to what I've explained about starch breaking down into glucose. When you eat less starch, your blood glucose levels will be lower. As a consequence of reduced blood pressure and reduced blood glucose levels, you may find that your medication requirements for these conditions may also reduce. In terms of brain health, when you reduce carbohydrates and start to fuel your brain on healthy fats, you will more than likely notice an improvement in mental clarity and a lift in brain fog that you may have experienced before. You will also notice a change in the way your body stores fat. People who are metabolically unwell tend to store fat around their middle. It's not just belly fat, but it's inside around the organs around the waist. One of the really powerful measurements of this is your waist circumference, because this is an extremely useful way of showing you that fat is starting to move from around the waist. Knowing that the fat is being burnt for energy is an indication that your metabolic health is improving. The body can't cope with high blood glucose levels, and so the liver deals with this by turning it into fat. And this fat often gets stuck in the liver, resulting in what is called fatty liver. So when the glucose level comes down, the fat starts to clear and your liver function will improve. And all of these improvements are going to reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease, such as heart attack and stroke. But for someone who considers themselves an ultra-processed food addict, the primary benefit is that they find they have peace around food. Do you or did you ever get triggered by the rustling of a packet of crisps? Maybe the theme of an advert that reminds you of a particular food, and of course the aroma of walking past the bread counter in the supermarket. One of our favourite Liberate feedbacks has been that people feel that they have rediscovered life between meals, that they're not thinking about food all the time, and that they just feel so much more productive. This slide was devised by Dr. David Unwin to help his patients understand the effect of eating very starchy foods if they had type 2 diabetes. For example, a portion of 150 grams of rice, when the starch is broken down into glucose, is the equivalent of 10 teaspoons of sugar. Similarly, potato has a lot of starch. Turning to fruit, which we would think of as healthy, bananas tend to surprise everyone. That a small banana would have the same effect on your blood glucose level as having 6 teaspoons of sugar. Modern bananas have been bred to be very sweet. This information will help you to choose the better foods to base your diet on. You'll notice that there's hardly any carbohydrate in broccoli, and the eggs have none, and other foods like chicken, oily fish, almonds, mushrooms, cheese and meat are very low in carbohydrates. This slide is specifically about breakfast. Most people would think of this as quite a healthy breakfast. We have a small bowl of cornflakes with some milk, a slice of brown toast, and a glass of pure apple juice. This breakfast would be the equivalent of having 21 teaspoons of sugar. If you start your day consuming the equivalent of 21 teaspoons of sugar, then just imagine what your metabolism is trying to cope with. If you measure out 30 grams of cornflakes, it really is very small, and most people will be having at least twice that amount. So a better way to start the day would perhaps be a mushroom omelette or some full-fat Greek yogurt with berries and nuts, which are both very low in carbohydrates. The information on this slide is taken from Dr. Chris Van Tulleken and is as a result of him experimenting on himself with eating ultra-processed foods. Research has shown that the majority of people have more food addictive symptoms when ultra-processed foods are consumed. Over time, our addictive brains or drug foods create new connections in our brain which program us to seek out these foods. Our hope is that once you have been through our Liberate program, you will be able to strengthen those weaker connections and to develop a list of your drug or trigger foods, especially personalised to you. You will learn what foods are triggering to your food addiction. It is important to note that this list can evolve over time, so it is very individualised. This slide will hopefully reassure you that the foods we're asking you to eat really aren't boring. There are lots of tasty and attractive looking meals. Substitutes for low carbohydrate ultra processed foods such as courgette spaghetti. We have roasted butternut squash instead of potato. You could always use celeriac or swede. You can use aubergine instead of pasta sheets to make a lasagna. You can see some really colourful salads. There's avocado and salmon. There's fish and meat, and of course eggs. Prior to starting the course, we would recommend that you attempt to adopt a lower carbohydrate way of eating. For example, looking at food labels and eliminating anything that has sugar or flour in the first 5 ingredients. You might also want to keep a food diary. Maybe keep an eye on what you're eating over the course of a day, just to give you an idea of how much sugar and carbohydrate you're currently consuming and the times of day when you're eating. I'd now like to read you a testimony. So this person says, I have always had a sweet tooth and from my earliest years have been drawn to sugary food. Over the years I yo-yo dieted, and as I got older I started to suffer from health problems. In my late 50s, I started on my low-carb journey. Although my health started to improve, I found staying away from sugar and processed carbs very difficult. At a point, I came to realise that I am addicted to sugar and processed carbs. Recovery from addiction has been tough for me, but this past festive season was the first in my life sugar and processed carb free. Some of the health benefits have been less body pain, almost headache free, no longer having swollen ankles and feet, and the disappearance of my blepharitis. I am also physically stronger. What made the difference was the realisation that I cannot do this alone. Since then, I have been helped with further support to develop tools to help me remain sugar-free. My life is no longer dominated by my addiction, and I'm enjoying my life beyond food. And here are the study results from the pilot of Liberate. As you can see, 79% of those that enrolled have completed the course. There was an overall reduction of 46% in food addiction symptoms, with a 44% reduction in binge eating symptoms. There was a reported improvement in mental well-being by 6 points. And to put that into perspective, meaningful change indicates an increase of 3 points. So as you can see, we've doubled that. There has been lots of positive feedback from Pilot 1 of Liberate. Liberate has given me my life back. I really enjoyed the science. It was all well explained, and I feel I understand myself better now. I now have life in between meals and peace whilst eating. Liberate tools have been really helpful in my recovery from food addiction. My favourite part was learning about what was happening in my brain. I especially enjoyed the science. I can focus on my family, friends and work better now I'm not thinking about food all the time. The group support was the most valuable tool for me. I know now I'm not alone. And I can walk around a shop without being triggered. Before we come to the end, I just want to remind you about some important considerations. A low carbohydrate approach to eating will have a profoundly positive effect on metabolism, which is great. If you're on medication, then you may want to have a discussion with a member of your healthcare team. As I just said, reducing the carbohydrates will make a big difference to your metabolism. It's going to reduce your blood glucose levels and more than likely going to reduce your blood pressure. If you're on metformin, then it's perfectly safe to continue that. If you take other medication to reduce blood glucose levels, you may want to inquire whether you need to start reducing any medication as you are undertaking the dietary and lifestyle changes. If you'd like to enrol on Liberate, please complete as much information as possible to get the best from our service. We'll always use blind copy when we email so that your details aren't shared with everyone else. There is the chance that it can go to your junk or spam folder, so please check this over the next few days just to make sure you're getting the emails. Let us know your availability. Think about this carefully as it's important that you can attend each session to get the most from the course. You'll be asked to create a participant ID. This is so we can anonymise any data that we collect. We've set this up in an easy to remember format of the initials of your first and last names and your date of birth. So the example here is Joe Bloggs, who was born on the 1st of December. The participant ID would be JB0112. Once you've completed the form, submit it, and then we'll be able to send out the handbook. We'll email you to let you know which session you've been allocated, who your health coach is, and all the details about starting the course. We would request that you complete our pre- and post-course questionnaires, which will be emailed to you and which will take no more than 20 minutes to complete. Please answer the questions honestly. There's no judgment. There's nothing people have done with food that we haven't heard before, or indeed that Ellen says she hasn't done herself. Because of GDPR rules around data protection, it's really important that you consent to us using your data. This means that you're happy for us to securely store your contact details and to use your measurements to calculate an average result. This is anonymous and everyone's data will be gathered and the results shown as a group. Just to recap about the course, it's an 8-week course. You will join a class and attend the 90-minute sessions at the same time each week via Microsoft Teams. Please check that you are available for all sessions before enrolling. Provide additional availability so we can allocate you to an alternative if your first choice is already full. And once you've enrolled, then the support and education sessions will be available to you, and these will be run on Tuesday evenings. As you can see, there are a variety of sessions available, different days and times. If you don't feel ready to enrol at the moment, then you can tick the box at the bottom and we'll be in touch with you once the next round of courses is announced. The next steps then are to complete the enrolment form to book your place on the Liberate course. Once you've completed the form, you've submitted to us, and then we'll send you out the handbook. Please check your junk or spam folder for confirmation emails. Once you've been allocated a course, we'll email you a start date and let you know who your health coach is. During this time, depending on what medication you're currently on, you can arrange to have a medication review with your doctor or nurse. And then your 8-week Liberate course will begin. How to prepare. First of all, await an email from Liberate. Fill out all the questions honestly and then await a reply from us. It doesn't cost to daydream, even just a little. Close your eyes and imagine yourself without your addiction. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Is it freeing or does it feel a little bit scary? Maybe write down how it feels and we can discuss it at one of the sessions. Also, setting goals is a powerful motivator. What do you want to achieve from the course? At the end of this information session, we would be delighted if you decide to enrol. You may feel that now's not the right time for you to give this level of commitment, and if that's the case, we can provide you with a list of support. If the courses do become oversubscribed or you're just not ready at this time, you can register your interest and you'll be the first in line to be contacted for the next round of courses. In addition, it would be helpful prior to commencing the course if you have a look at the ingredients labels on foods and drinks that you're consuming and consider eliminating foods that contain sugar or flour in the first 5 ingredients. Also, clear out your cupboards. If you live with people who are eating higher carbohydrate foods, then perhaps have a discussion with them about having a separate cupboard for their foods and drinks. Consider keeping a food diary to help you to identify what you're currently consuming and how often during the day you're eating. And what about also making a note of how you feel before and after eating? And once you receive the workbook, start to have a read through, and this will also give you tips on preparing for a lower carbohydrate way of eating. I'd like to wish you luck with whatever you decide to do, and if you do have any questions in the meantime, then please contact our admin office at liberate@phcuk.org.